Well, guys, the bad news just keeps pouring in, and I know it's quite late, but I got to read you this article regarding the Pine Barrens. We have lost 60 acres in the Pine Barrens this month. This area that you see right here, if you look at my mouse, this area right here has been cleared for a solar farm. That's right, and this is all because this was supposed to be expanded into the Pine Barrens, but our piece of piece of utter trash, Governor Andrew Cuomo vetoed the bill that would have protected these woods, and now these woods are gone. And all this you see here is gone. So they've got the bulldozers in here, and they've cleared all of this out. All these woods here, more or less, are gone. Off to the right here, this is where the site is, and all this is gone now, bulldozed for a solar farm because of Gerald Rosengarten's connections with the governor. And I gotta say, it's this state is just breaking my heart. Between what's going on with the Long Island Railroad and what's going on with the Pine Barrens, it seems more evident than ever that our government is bought and paid for by the rich, the developers, Wall Street, the banks, and they don't really care about us. And if we don't really make a change this November and change the people running this state, this may not be a state worth living in anymore for yours truly. Anyway, let's get to the article. Trees topple. Environmentalists race for solutions. While some environmentalists, state officials, and others were hoping for a compromised agreement to save some or all of the bucolic pine barren stands in the midst of two preserved woodlands, tree felling began on the Middle Island Solar Farm property in Mastic on February 28th. 60 acres have been cleared, confirmed MISF managing partner Gerald Rosengarten. Brookhaven Town requires that 40 of the 100-acre parcel remain as a buffer. According to Rosengarten, while the trees have been cleared, the stumps remain. That process is just underway and takes time, he said in an email. But officials are still trying to shine a light, so to speak, at the end of the trees. A bill was reintroduced in the New York State Legislature by Assembly Steve Engelbright and Senator Kenneth Laval to expand the Pine Barrens Core Preservation Area. That includes the Shoreham property as well as Rosengarten's property and 220 acres in Mastic Woods of other privately owned land, the largest remaining undeveloped property within the Forge River watershed, the Pine Barrens expansion bill says. According to Stephen Liss, Engelbright's chief of staff, both Senator Laval and Assemblyman Engelbright have added the same language of the bill as the one vetoed. It would encompass all of the property mentioned. Basically, both bills were approved by the committees and are awaiting a vote in their respective houses, said Bruce Blower, Laval's director of communication. Right now, it's two different ways of approaching. One is what was introduced, the other is two one-house budgets for the Assembly and Senate. In both these versions, they had those properties put in. If it's approved, it becomes law. The governor is the key to getting this passed. Environmentalists have pointed out that even if the entire 60 acres were taken down, there is the remaining 40-acre buffer left that could be preserved on the MISF property, and also that the woodland can regenerate under certain conditions. The project is reaching a contentious culmination that included the confusing MISF, that's Middle Island Solar Farm, testimony to the planning board regarding PPAs, a hired lobbyist by Rosengarten to convince Governor Andrew Cuomo not to preserve this parcel, and environmentalists like Citizens Campaign for the Environment Executive Director Adrian Esposito, who nixed last year's preservation bill overwhelmingly passed by Engelbright and Laval that would have kept Rosengarten's trees intact. In a letter dated August 16, 2017, Esposito asked for the veto of the bill as currently written, or ensure a land swap. A land swap, Esposito said, was what she was hoping for. Unfortunately, the deal fell apart, she said. We had a deal in December that would have been reasonable and doable. There is no good reason the swap couldn't have happened. Not one. There was an easy solution that was ignored. A flurry of letters passed between Rosengarten and Brookhaven Supervisor Ed Romaine the last 4 weeks emphasizing their positions. In a February 28th letter to Romaine, Rosengarten stated that MISF's attempt to swap 20 acres of the MIS property associated with Phase 2 in exchange for 20 acres at the landfill for a solar project, and was shocked to find out in a daily newspaper that the town intended to use the landfill for its own energy park. No mention was made of any negotiations with my team, and thus it appears that the town has withdrawn its offer, the letter says. Rosengarten mentions his goal to preserve as many trees as possible and ends the correspondence saying, "Mr. Supervisor, we are waiting for your call." A March 2nd letter from Romaine states that the town proposed the use of several pieces of land in exchange for the preservation of the entire Mastic Woods parcel that was rebuffed by MISF. We subsequently were contacted by your representatives with a proposal which would have only protected 5 acres of land and resulted in trees being topped in another 3 acres. Clearly, we find that insufficient. Subsequently, the town has received an offer from another entity interested in developing solar at the landfill. In a March 9th letter, Rosengarten rebuts the town. While you have never formally presented us with locations of such land, it is clearly untenable to cut our 60 acres into several pieces of land located within the town of Brookhaven as you suggested. All of this was clearly communicated to you and your staff, Rosengarten's letter says. Rosengarten also questioned the town's claim about the 5-acre MISF proposal. "This is news to me," he said. Rosengarten pointed out that the property was L1 zoned industrial and a less environmentally minded project to construct storage warehouses would have resulted in most of the trees being cleared and increased car and truck traffic in the area. A town official said Rosengarten refused an offer in December seeking to preserve the entire parcel, and we're working with Senator Engelbright and Senator Laval to find an alternative site for the project and are continuing to do so. In December 2017, Romaine told the Advance that Rosengarten was offered to develop 22 acres at the landfill for solar, with 18 more acres in 2018 for a land swap, as well as offering to obtain the entire parcel outright. In 2016, Romaine had agreed to partner with the county when Legislature Kate Browning was in office. A Brookhaven town official said last week there were 2 phases approved by the planning board for the takedown, one for 40 acres, the other for 20. When noise complaints came in last week, a town official said operation of heavy equipment fell under noise ordinance. The permit allows for the hours of operation from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. for large projects. You have to apply to the Commissioner of Public Safety for a weekend variance, the town officials added. So just for Saturdays, they have a noise variance application. That work is limited from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. and MIS received it for 5 Saturdays from March 3rd to March 31st. But Marianne Johnston, affiliated Brookhaven Civic Organization president, who with the Long Island Pine Barrens Society has filed an Article 78 against the town, took issue. Why is there a permit posted on the site that says work must be from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. and no clearing on weekends and holidays? How is the public supposed to know this, and why didn't the permit say what the man is going to do? Rosengarten was asked to comment about Cuomo's office and the directive to come up with alternative solar sites to several entities that might be appropriate for the MISF project. Rosengarten said he wasn't aware of any lists of alternative sites and hadn't been approached with any formal proposals for swaps. The MISF team remains open to this discussion, he said in an email statement. Initial efforts by the town, Long Island Pine Barrens Society, New York Department of Environmental Conservation, and the Central Pine Barrens Joint Planning and Policy Commission after a meeting in Cuomo's Manhattan office in January to come up with alternative solar sites that could have been utilized caused a dust-up when the Central Pine Barrens group reneged on February 28th. John Turner and I met with the executive director of the Central Pine Barrens Joint Planning and Policy Commission, John Pavicic, on February 2nd at their headquarters in West Hampton, said Long Island Pine Barrens Executive Director Richard Amper. We saw a comprehensive map of where it would be useful to protect the Pine Barrens and where solar can be directed. Then he backed off after a February 28th meeting with the Commission. Brookhaven Town Division and Land Management Open Space Coordinator John Turner confirmed the map. It was an exercise they took seriously, and they were able to identify potential sites, he said. There was enough property and acreage to move Rosengarten's potential power potential several times over. In Brookhaven Town, over 24 sites had been identified. The commission was asked why they reversed decision when they were specifically charged by the governor to come up with alternatives in his December veto explanation. Apparently, there was a change of heart. The Central Pine Barrens Joint Planning and Policy Commission and its staff continues to work with the governor's office and other stakeholders to assess public lands that may be suitable for a solar farm project, said Tim Motz, executive director of communications, in a statement. Meanwhile, a temporary restraining order filed by the affiliated Brookhaven Civic Organization and the Long Island Pine Barrens Society on February 28th backed off the tree felling, but it was only for 3 days. It was granted. We notified the town an applicant, and the town did not oppose it, said Johnston, adding that the TRO is presided over by Suffolk County Supreme Court Justice William G. Ford, who is overseeing the Article 78. We cited exigent circumstances, she said. We were brought back in court on March 2nd. The court did not feel bulldozers were on the site were exigent enough. The exigent circumstances included the pending Englebright-Laval resolution and Cuomo's statement they hoped an alternative siting solution could be reached and that his office was currently evaluating the appropriateness of the clearing. We were back in court on March 29th on a preliminary injunction, Johnston said. Rosengarten didn't have the PPAs until 2018. Our job is to make sure that the town code is adhered to. Johnson emphasized the Renewable Energy System Zoning Code for solar amended and passed by the town board on October 27, 2016, which says solar energy production facilities are permitted on lands previously cleared and disturbed before January 1st, 2016. And it's now 2018, and he's clearing the land now. We will prevail on the code, she said. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. I know it was a long article. I don't know if you made it through the whole thing. If you can read the link below, that's fine. It's just these setbacks are just hard on me emotionally, and seeing, the railroad is my way around. I don't know if it's even going to be running tomorrow. How am I supposed to get around? How am I supposed to even get to the Pine Barrens and cutting down the Pine Barrens anyway? It's just very discouraging, that's all. And this is why I urge you, all of you that are watching this video, we must remove Governor Cuomo. He must be removed from office, either through a recall, through an indictment, or most likely just voting him out this November. Please, my fellow New Yorkers, we have to remove this man. He is destroying people's lives. He's destroying the Pine Barrens. He's destroying public transportation. He is by far the worst governor this state has ever seen, and we must remove him from office. I am urging you, even if you are a staunch Democrat, I don't care what party you are, this man has caused so much harm to so many people and our environment, and he must be removed from office. Please, this November, I urge you, do not vote for Cuomo. Let's replace him with somebody who can clean up the corruption in the state and take a stand against developers, Wall Street, and all those preppy lily whites on the Babylon branch. That's it.